For the latest Alien and Predator news updates, visit hybridnetworkyt.com. Hey guys, Nick here. So with this video I wanted to explore some of the lesser known deleted and alternate scenes from Prometheus, because a lot of this stuff might not have been common knowledge. I know there are a lot of scenes that people do know about, and one of the most famous ones being the extended prologue in which you actually get to see more of the elder engineers walking with the sacrificial engineer. So these ones are going to be scenes that are kind of hidden or stuff that was discovered in behind the scenes materials and things like that. So basically what I'm going to do is just sort of run through all of the scenes fairly quickly and give you guys them in a list format. So here we go. So the first sequence again was going to be the elder engineer walking out with the sacrificial engineer. However, in this one he was actually supposed to speak. He was going to speak in the engineer's language, and it was going to translate to, "Let your body become the dirt, your blood become the waters, and may your soul become their way back to us." So it's very interesting. This was obviously going to be him speaking to the younger sacrificial engineer right before he ingests the bowl filled with whatever chemical or accelerant that was in that decomposed his body and broke down his cells into DNA and that sort of thing and seeded life on that planet. The interesting part of the dialogue though is how he did mention, "Let your soul become their way back to us," which I'm guessing the "there" in that sentence was referring to us, actually human beings. So let your soul become the human's way of coming back to us. So I thought that was a very interesting piece of dialogue, and I kind of wish it was in the movie, but at the same time I can see both sides of it, because you still have that ambiguity if you don't actually hear the engineers speak and the sort of mystery behind them. So I can definitely see both sides of it. However, it would have been a very cool sequence to have in there. So next up here we have right when Holloway and Shaw are talking about the cave that they had found, and Shaw tells him to come check out the painting. He tells her, "You're smiling." That was one of the scenes I think was featured in a trailer, or it might have been a featurette, I'm not exactly sure. Alright, next up here we have a scene in which David was actually crying while watching Lawrence of Arabia and drinking the iconic android milk. So right here there was going to be an extended line of dialogue in which Yannick would get into festive spirit while messing around with the Christmas tree just after the crew wakes up from cryosleep. So Milburn and Fifield share additional dialogue. After Milburn sits, he says his fingers are still numb and that he's never been out this long before, to which Fifield replies, "No one's been out this long before." Milburn then says, "Alright." So it was just another little character beat for them, I guess, establishing kind of the relationship that the two have. Now before briefing the crew on their mission, there was going to be a quick back and forth between Shaw and Holloway, to which Shaw says, "They're gonna think we're crazy," and Holloway replies, "Yeah, not if you keep it scientific." We then transition to an alternate cut of Fifield saying it's a star map, and then a different shot of Shaw saying, "Not a map, an invitation." This was used in pretty much all of the trailers, I think, for the film, which is interesting because it's again one of those things that they put in the trailer, but it's not actually in the final film. They use a different cut or a different take. So after the briefing doesn't work out as planned, Shaw was to storm off down a hallway, angry at Holloway for not backing her up in the room. This scene would have taken place right before David brings them both to Vickers. So when landing the ship, a quick shot was cut in which Yannick said, "Prometheus has landed." This was used in the main trailer, if you guys remember that. After removing his helmet inside of the engineer's temple, Holloway was to say, "That's the sweetest air I've ever tasted," which is yet again just another character moment that was unfortunately cut out from this film. This is probably one that you guys might know about, but one notable change from the trailer was inside of the Ampiel room, where Holloway looks up at the mural, and when glancing over in the film there was a green crystal or a rock, but in the trailer there was the same bowl used by the sacrificial engineer in the beginning of the film, in which something inside of it begins to move. Personally, I think this one was better than the random rock that we got in the movie. Now inside of the Ampiel room, actually, David was to take a closer look at some of the ampules and was seen smiling at moving parts in the trailer, and in the behind the scenes footage he even smelled some of the black goo before putting it back down. The main trailer for Prometheus featured an alternate shot of Vickers saying "changing into what," which I thought was much more effective than the take that they used in the final cut. As Shaw prepares to accompany Weyland to meet the final engineer, there are a couple extra shots of her crying and praying that didn't make it into the film, one of which was actually featured in the Japanese trailer for Prometheus. When David and the medical team help Weyland out of his cryopod, David was to give Weyland some pills to swallow, presumably for his pain. During the scene in which Yannick talks to Shaw towards the end of the film, Shaw was supposed to tell Yannick, "I came here for answers, I'd rather die with those answers than leave without them." This further establishes her need for answers regarding the engineers, which was sadly not resolved in Alien Covenant. Originally, the five-field attack sequence took place as Weyland was leaving the ship to meet the engineer, and they would have just come down the elevator as Five-field was wreaking havoc in the cargo bay. Shaw was to then jump inside of the RT vehicle and run Five-field over. This was actually featured in the very first teaser for Prometheus. One of the trailers features a shot of Yannick shouting, "Kill everything, you copy?" More than likely this was during the Five-field attack, or it could have been during the engineer's attack sequence when he fought Weyland and the other crew members during the end of the film, but we just don't know. Before entering the pilot chamber of the Juggernaut ship, David takes some time to admire the engineer's suits. When Yannick tells Vickers he plans to ram the Prometheus into the Juggernaut, she tells him, "You were a terrible lay, by the way," and then quickly heads to the escape pods. Right after crashing the Juggernaut, there was to be a shot of the last engineer picking himself up and then running on the surface to Vickers' life module. Featured again in a lot of the behind the scenes shots of the movie, the engineer running across the barren landscape of LV-223. After Shaw entered Vickers' life module, she was to grab the bottle of vodka that we saw earlier in the film and take a big drink, as you do normally when being chased by a giant pale alien. And finally, while searching for Shaw inside of Vickers' room, the engineer was to stop and browse some of the books that were littered across the floor. So those were all of the lesser known and alternate deleted scenes that were in Prometheus that were not seen anywhere and didn't make it to any of the Blu-ray or DVD sets that were put out on home release. So very interesting stuff here. A lot of this was fairly small scenes, just trimmed I guess for timing or something, but when you actually look at some of it, it was very much character building as well. So I'm kind of curious as to why a lot of it was cut, honestly. I mean, there was some stuff that was very small, but again, there was other stuff that was fairly big, like the whole engineer speaking in the beginning of the film, Holloway and Shaw upset in the hallway. That would have been another character beat that would have established their relationship a little bit more. I mean, there was a shot of David actually looking at the ampules that I thought was cooler, and just stuff like that I think that really would have actually helped out the film overall. But leave your own thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you guys think of these deleted scenes from Prometheus that you never saw, most likely? And do you think they would have helped out the film overall, or were they too minute to actually change big things in the film? As always, thanks for watching. My name is Nick, and for more on the Alien and Predator universe, subscribe to Hybrid Network.